Welcome to today's Startup Equity Matters podcast that helps unpack equity related stories so we can get more value from our equity. Today, I have a really cool guest. I've just kicked out his bot and my bot. So it's just going to be the two of us. We were just joking about how we're going to be nice to the bots because, they could be the overlords soon. So I made sure I didn't report them. Give them a 5-star rating for their bot work. But anyway, so today, I guess is really, really cool. He built and sold a company with his wife, which is such an amazing thing to do, and now helps lead RevScale.ai, an AI revenue scale up. And he's really passionate about no code and AI and helping founders keep more of their equity, which is something we're totally behind here at the podcast. So welcome, KJ Royal.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Pleasure to be here. Big fan of your guys and what you're doing at Cake Equity, and a big fan of the podcast as well. So happy to be here and try to add as much value as possible. Thanks for having me.
We're really looking forward to this one. So thanks a lot for joining. So let's kick it off by talking a bit about what you're up to at the moment. RevScale.ai sounds pretty
Yeah,
cool.
man. Yeah, it's super cool. That's what I'm up to right now, as you kind of mentioned. It's kind of been a quick journey. As Jason mentioned, just got acquired by RevScale AI after being a white label partner for the last 6 to 7, 8 months. Met these guys. I was running my previous company called Sprints, and we were a hybrid product and marketing agency for early stage startups. So, as Jason mentioned, my wife and I started off in business about 3 years ago when we met. Both of our experiences have been in startup. She had like 15 years of experience, was the CMO at multiple different startup organizations, and naturally being the first marketing hire at everywhere she worked, got really good at solving the internal marketing issues of early stage startups in terms of pitch decks and things of that nature, getting things off the ground from idea conception all the way to IPO. She's helped raise over $1 billion in capital in her career. And so my experience has been with startups too. I mentor in a couple big startup accelerators, Founders Institute, as well as Techstars. And when we set out, we just wanted to help companies be able to rapidly test, iterate, build as quickly as possible. And for lack of a better term for you all that are in the startup community, it's like, how quickly can we fail, basically. The failure rate is quite high, but we want to make sure that we're rapidly doing that testing, iterating, and being able to do that at a quick pace so we don't spend a bunch of money on something that the market doesn't necessarily want. And that happens quite a bit in tech. So through that journey, we obviously met our partner in RevScale and started white labeling a lot of products and services, and had a lot of success. Made sense. I'm a big believer in all tides rise together. And so now I've gotten acquired into the company, and I joined the leadership team, as Jason mentioned, leading up a massive sales effort, and we're in scale up mode as well. So big time growth opportunity, and we're helping people iterate quickly, but also implement AI technology into their system. So we work with a lot of startup founders, helping them fundraise, but also work with growth stage companies, helping them grow their company, whether it's through sales opportunities or actually recruiting talented individuals to their staff as well.
Yeah, really cool, man. Love the story. And RevScale AI is seems like such a right time, right place company, and we're definitely going to dig into that more in a minute. But let's take a bit of a step back. You've touched on it a little bit, but how did you get into startups, and how did it all start for you?
Yeah, it's really wild for me. I'm a non-technical founder. I don't necessarily come from a background of tech. I'm originally from Metro Detroit. My family was big in the auto industry, so a lot of people that come from that area. When you grow up there, most of the folks that you know, if they don't work for the big three, which is Ford, GM, and Chrysler, they either work for a supplier. So I was very much in that group. Like I said, I went to school for business, but my entrepreneurial journey, I think, is different for everybody. I actually was during COVID, the first company that I worked for post college was actually kind of a startup, not in the sense of like a tech startup, but we were in staffing and recruiting. So I was doing outside sales there and actually got let go during COVID. But during that time, I met who became one of my first like mentors in business, who was actually running a growth agency that was working with a lot of startup founders at the time. And that's where I really started to learn a lot about building startups and startup culture and how to build iteratively. And so I kind of just fell in love with it from there. That started the journey like 6 or 7 years ago. And everything that's kind of happened was a step ladder from there. So helped that agency grow. During that time, that's when I met my wife, Chelsea. And I kind of spoke previously about her experience, but we kind of aligned on everything that we want to do in terms of building companies and stuff. And I think one of these things about working with startups is like, I've thought about pivoting away from it, and I'm like, oh, startups are just so frustrating. But I think, we all have, it's just one of those things, man. Like when you're a builder, you're a builder, you always want to be on the cutting edge of like, what's next and innovation, and it's exciting, and it's something to wake up to every day and be really, really excited about. So I think over the last 6 or 7 years, I'm a big proponent, especially now with how things are changing. You don't have to be a technical founder necessarily, or you don't need to be a coder or a developer. If you have a skill set and you understand business, you can, build a team around you and also get up to speed a lot quicker if you're willing to learn. So I'm a big fan of non-technical founders, and that's really my background and past. So I kind of say that to for everyone out there listening, like you don't, if you want to get into the space or get into tech, or the startup world, you don't necessarily have to, have had family members that have been to it, or a lot of times people think it's like a proximity thing, but I didn't grow up in New York City or Silicon Valley or anything like that. So very, very much non-traditional.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I'm a non-technical founder as well. I managed to navigate the, being a first-time founder by having a technical co-founder.
That's
And
good.
so, my co-founder Kim has been doing product and engineering for decades. And so
Yep.
that was the way I got through it. And there was still, a ton of learning that you need to do because you have to have at least some idea as a founder of a tech company. But it's never been easier than it is today because of the progress of the way technology is built. I'm not sure exactly who said it, but I think it's been said many times now that there was a period where you build any sort of software and you could be successful because there kind of wasn't any, and so it was a huge step change. And then it got to be, well, there's lots of people building software now. You have to build products. And so there was like that, that 10-year period, probably in the early 2000s, 10, 15-year
Yep.
period, early, maybe up to 2015, 2019, where it was like, we're building a product. And everyone's like, wow, this thing works out of the box. And now
Yep.
it's kind of like, hey, like anyone can nearly build a product. How are you going to get it to market? How are you going to get it in people's hands? So we've been progressing down that path for some time, and now we have AI that can write software like pretty well by the looks of it.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about no code. I know you're quite passionate about no code. You spend quite a bit of time in that space. I think there's going to be listeners that kind of have heard of it or but have never actually used it. So can we talk a little bit about like what it is and why it's helpful?
Yeah, I think low code, no code is a methodology of building technology that's gained a lot of popularity over the last 5 to 6 years. And like Jason mentioned, with the advent of AI and these AI and training models just getting smarter and smarter, what you're basically able to do, which is a big help for non-technical founders out there like Jason and myself, is work with teams or work with different platforms in order to build technology faster and more iteratively. It's usually quicker because traditionally you have to have an entire process, which I'm very much obsessed with and haven't like found the right solution. But the hardest thing I think for people when they go to build technology is actually scoping the project, getting it out of their head what their idea is into paper, and like formalizing what it is that we actually need to build. I think people struggle with that. And so
100%.
pretty much,
Just talking to a
yeah,
founder about that yesterday, and I have experience with that as well. It's like you're in the real world kind of saying, hey, I've got this problem and this is how I see the solution. And then if you just say that straight to an engineer, like you could literally get anything built. And I'm not trying to criticize engineers, like there needs to be proper information sharing with some real structure to get that thing done.
Yeah, that is because as founders, we're all visionaries, right? Like we have this grand vision of where our product is going to be in 10 and 20 years. And the reality of it is you always start with a product that's very different from where it's going to become.
Mm,
But one of the things that we have been doing on our agency side, and I still work on quite a few of these projects, is now with AI, when we're going to scope and onboard clients, we're hopping on a call like this and just asking the right questions, and the AI's in the background recording and actually starting to do a lot of the pre-scope, pre-work. And it's crazy because, as Jason mentioned, the robots are taking over. They kind of are, because that used to be a very tedious process in the past, having conversations, writing it down, coming, everyone has a different methodology in terms of like, okay, what's our first, second, or third step? Now we take AI and it can go ahead and scan the entire internet and like what's the best way to actually build a product. And so when we have these conversations with people, we can start to identify a timeline, technology requirements. We're actually even producing SRS documents for folks that, as you know, if you've ever built technology before, that's something that can save you, when you go to trademark, can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, being in front of a lawyer if you already have that documentation. So
mm.
the other cool thing about AI and low code, no code is we're able to take code stacks that have already been pre-built. I always use the analogy of Chipotle, for example. Most people know what Chipotle is. When you go to Chipotle, their process and why they've become such a successful company is as simple. They have, you know, maybe 10 different items. You can get a taco, you can get a quesadilla, you can get a burrito, but the ingredients of what goes in it and how you craft that offering are all the same. We think of we think of technology in that way. We've and just like Jason said, I'm not a technological builder myself, but I do understand the ease of use and the user experience. And what we've done with our tech team is they've built so many different code stacks that with low code and no code, when someone comes to us to build, very rarely do we start from scratch. It's like it usually fits into one category, and we're able to basically assemble those together. So think about going to Chipotle and building technology. I need this feature, this feature, and this feature. And then it goes back to our development team and they seamlessly tie those together. So now you're not, and it's quicker, it's more efficient. It's something that we can, as an MVP per se, get into market and start to test and get user feedback and see if we can acquire customers, rather than spending, you know, all this time and effort to try to build something from scratch that's very, 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 very much expensive, and can sink your company. A lot of times I've seen it just happen to too many founders where they have a good idea, they're bright, but they spend all their money on tech, and don't kind of skip the phase of like really doing that great market test and understanding the value. We're helping people get into market a lot quicker. And I think the low code, no code thing allows you to do that because, one, the pre-built stacks, but then two, to make it even a little bit easier for people to understand, drag and drop. I think like the easiest contextual use case for people to understand is like when you go to a web builder now, and it's like, yeah, you're not a web designer, but with most web builds that are built with some type of low code, no code, you can go on and be not a web designer whatsoever, not non-technical, and be able to create a website in a couple hours. Whereas like traditionally, I, even myself, I wouldn't even have tried probably in the past because I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. This is a huge, I have to learn this platform. It's a big learning curve. So,
And
yeah,
now you
that's
can
pretty
do
much
that
it.
for apps. So now it's not just a website. It's like, hey,
Yep.
whatever software you want to build, like
Yep.
80/20, all those pieces, someone's already built it all, and you can just drag and drop it into your system. And then obviously you got to put your own overlay of all your messaging and business logic and the
Yep.
language is specific to your use case. And look,
Yep.
it's not going to be the fully fledged app that's going to take you to a billion users, but it's going to get you over those first hurdles in a
That's
much
it.
more simple and affordable way.
Yep.
Let's talk a bit about the cost. Like what sort of cost savings, cost differential are we seeing now with no code versus old school builds?
Man, I think we're seeing in some scenarios hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference. Like I've seen people get an MVP in the market for, let's say, 50,000 going low code, no code, whereas like traditionally that build would be 300, 400,000. I call them kind of like rescue projects sometimes when people do what
What
I
they're already like 250 in, and then you meet them and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, okay.
yes. Yes, those are always interesting because you feel for them.
I know.
Um, and then one of the things is and I understand it because, we all get emotionally attached to our ideas. So it's very, very hard to take something that's been built incorrectly, especially in technology,
Mm.
and save it. You're almost always better just starting from scratch. And when you've spent that much time and money and effort into something, it's really difficult to hear, but usually a lot of those projects that we work with, we're able to get them because they've already spent 250,000, but they haven't given up. But it's like, okay, you guys can get me something in the market. Everything that we've ever done has always been under 100,000, just depending on the features and the amount of builds. But we're doing clickable dynamic prototypes and getting those in the market for less than 25 grand, and helping people with their fundraise. So then it's like, okay, let's build a prototype first, see if we can get this in front of some investors to raise the capital to even build the MVP. And that's been highly, highly successful. I would always advise people, like I said, to try to build as iterative as possible. Get some of the concept. Investors don't expect you to have the full-fledged product. They never do.
No, no, no.
Um, they just
It's
expect
like
you to have a concept.
it's
That's
like,
it.
will people buy it? You know, are they engaging with it? Are you getting some good feedback? That's like
That's
step
it.
one. You don't need to have the full product in
That's
the
it.
big, sort of seed stage.
Yep.
Yeah, really cool. And like why this is super important is because when you're raising capital, you don't want to waste it. And it's easy to waste it. And if you're a non-technical founder, particularly, or if you're a technical founder, you probably want to build shit way too much,
Yep.
sort of build, 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 build. And if you're a non-technical founder, you don't know what to build, you don't know what to ask for. It's really easy to get like something totally different than you asked for. So the reason we're talking about this is, if you're going to use your own money in the beginning, you don't want to run out. You don't want to waste it. If you're going to raise a bit of money, again, like if you waste that first angel round, it's going to be really hard to get that next bit of funding. You're going to hit the wall. You're going to runway's going to run out. So what we're talking about here is ways to, you know, get your vision happening faster, keep your mission on track, save your capital, keep you hitting your milestones, which protects your equity, right? So let's tie that all back in. Thank you heaps, KJ. So no code and AI, yeah, empowering entrepreneurs, particularly, non-technical entrepreneurs to create great apps without coding knowledge. Love that. Accelerating your time to market, reducing development cost, maintaining full control over the project. And then a bit of research we did, Gartner report came out in 2021. 60% of custom apps built will be outside the IT department. And by 2025, 70% of new apps developed by organizations are predicted to use no code or low code. So this is pretty serious stuff. Definitely check it out for what you're building. Now, one thing I wanted to get into next is like your equity journey because you build a company. I think you chose to bootstrap. We'll dig into that. You got an
Yep.
exit, which is wonderful. And you're pretty passionate about helping founders learn how to protect their equity. I'm very
Yes.
passionate about that as well. I know you do tons of mentoring at really top platforms like Techstars and Founder Institute, same as me. So let's talk about how to protect your equity and use some personal examples along the way. So for what you can share, tell us a bit about your equity journey. Did you get funding with sprints and did you bootstrap and how did that all go? No need to share numbers and stuff, of course, no pressure, but what can we share with people about that?
Yeah, I think my journey is shared between myself, and I also lean on my wife's experience quite a bit because she was a part of multiple different startups, opportunities, and had those exact situations like Jason and I have mentioned, where you don't really early on in your career understand the power of equity and like how it's actually distributed, and what are the terms and conditions around it. I think very much. When we built our company, we had the not the for lack of a better term, like the battle scars of like those war, those startup war stories that everyone has, where like, man, I that one failed before I got to the at the end of the period, the vesting period, or I didn't take equity there when I wish I should have, or just a different scenario. So we always had gotten to a point where it was like we were gonna like from the very beginning. Like I'm a big believer in bootstrap as long as possible. I think you want to keep as much as your equity because naturally when you get into the cycle of having to capital raise, I've seen so many people where raising capital becomes like their company instead of them actually building a company, right?
But it has felt like that to me many times on the cake journey, man. Oh my goodness. The first couple of rounds when you don't know anyone and you got no track record and you're out there trying to raise 500K, like that's pretty gnarly if you're not like from Ivy League in the Valley, like it's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
and it can get, and it can, and then it just gets into where you're, it's cyclical. So like you just think, oh, I gotta go raise the next round, and then the next round, and the next round, but
Or
in
you leave it too
reality,
late and then you're raising and you're running out of money and then your stress levels are just like insane.
yeah. And then it gets you away from like why we are all entrepreneurs and visionaries in the first place, which is like you identified a problem and you want to solve that problem. And so to bring in like my experience, we bootstrapped. Obviously we're able to get to an exit. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think just having a plan is very, very important. I know startup world is filled with a lot of um it's not relative, or it is relative, it's not always absolute. There's a lot of relativities and you kind of have to, a lot of it is just problem solving and waking up and putting out the fires on a constant day-to-day basis, just depending on what's in front of you. But I would definitely advise people to bootstrap as long as possible. Some ways that you can get creative about that so you're not getting yourself in a situation where you feel like the investors own your company is, I'm a big, obviously like Jason mentioned, I'm a big proponent of AI. Why? AI is getting to the point where it can replace a lot of, I don't think we'll ever completely raise or replace humans because humans naturally are the ones who train AI. And anyone that's like afraid of the technology or thinking that the technology is going to take over our entire world, I don't believe that. And the reason being is because as humans, the one thing that we have, whether we can mimic our behavior, but remember the AI is mimicking us. And what makes us special is our ingenuity, and we're like no other life species on the entire world. So when it comes to AI, you're able to just be very strategic, and where you might have had to give up equity in the past, let's say to a co-founder or an investor that has a network of other investors that they're going to bring in, or just think of all the different scenarios. Like there's usually some type of contextual use case in AI now that can replace that and give you the same result, and then you keep your equity. And I just think understanding really too, like what is my exit strategy and like how big of a company am I really trying to build? Because um talking with Jason, that's something I said. I was like, I wasn't necessarily thinking my company was going to be the next Apple or anything. And you can have a nice exit that can set you up, for the rest of your put you in a really good financial position moving
Yeah.
forward, not necessarily have to go the VC path.
Yeah.
Because with that, it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of expectations. You
Yeah.
don't find product market fit, stuff doesn't happen, you're out of your company, you know.
Like you can go down the venture path, pound away for 5 years, get diluted, sell your company for 25 million, end up with 2 million. Or you can
Yep.
bootstrap, build a cool company, get to 2 million revenue, sell it for 2 or 3 million. And like so there's definitely more than one way to skin the cat.
Yep.
And of course, we want to have the biggest impact we can. I don't have anything wrong with venture-backed businesses, and we need big businesses. We need innovation. We need it at scale, and that's fine too. But it is kind of cool to think through what those options are and what's right for your business. Like some people try and that they have a business that can be a really great business that turns over 2 or 5 million and might be worth 5 or 10 million or whatever. But they try and turn it into a venture scalable business and they smash themselves against the rocks, to
Yep.
kind of use more like a boating analogy, a bit of a weird one. But you know what I mean? Like you're just pounding
Yeah.
yourself and you're not going to get anywhere because you're like, your business is like this and you try to get it over here. So understanding your business and your market and your capability and where it's going, I think it is super important. And then
Yep.
you retain a lot of your equity, you can still have a really meaningful outcome. How do you see team equity? We're big on employee equity here, team equity, getting everybody involved. I don't know if you had it at Sprints, but I didn't get to ask you about that. I mean, I don't know how that was set up. It's cool if you didn't, no dramas. But did you manage to get a bit of team equity in place there, and hopefully you got some happening at RevScale.ai.
Yeah, so we're actually I'm a big Cake fan and was using Cake at Sprints, and then RevScale we're actually using Cake as well. So I obviously shameless plug, but like if you guys are in the startup ecosystem, Cake is an amazing platform and
Thanks,
use
man.
it. You don't need to be a finance major or a technology expert in order to use it. Seamless experience, great user interface. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of giving everyone a piece of the pie, and actually having them understand that. Because I think people naturally, as human beings, if we get to just like at a ground level, we all want to be a part of something, right? And so I think some of the best companies in the world are employee led. And when they're employee led, it's not just saying, hey, putting that, slapping that on a sign. It's like they're giving people actual ownership in the company. To give you an example, my wife is from North Dakota, Fargo, actually. Jason, you probably might not even know where that is on the map.
I know there's some really famous, like there's a famous show called Fargo. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So,
Okay.
for those of you that know that region of the world, there's this company there, and it's called Shields, and they're like a massive outdoor but also like sports store. So you basically can go there and get, with your kids and get all their sporting good equipment, and they have clothes and just everything. But the reason I bring them up is they've been growing exponentially now, and they've just opened up some locations where I usually spend most of my time in DFW. But the story here is they are amazing, amazing, amazing. The experience there, it's because they treat their employees so well. It's stock options. Everyone feels taken care of. They feel accountable. They feel like a team member that's actually adding value. So when you go there, think of it. You treat your own home differently than you would like a public place. But if you all have equity, then you feel like it is your home. So I'm a big believer, and I love what Cake is doing to allow that to be able to give out equity easier, but also have people understand what their equity means in terms of the agreements and the terms. And I'm just, like I said, I'm a big believer in that. I think it all tides rise together. And the more that we can be community led or employee led. And then I'm also a big believer too. I think equity can back that. And instead of you just saying that how your company is, you're actually putting the proof in the pudding behind what you're saying. But the great thing about it is too, is people will brag about your company and the experience that they have working there. And you much rather have that type of experience than people being like, well, I did all this work, I was underpaid, I didn't get any value, especially because we all know no one can build a company by themselves. Like it takes a team. And then the other thing that you guys are doing that I love is the globe now is, it's a small world. Like we live in a very massive world in terms of space, and if you're in a international country, it's meters. If you're, it's feet in the United States, different and weird. But
I wish you'd come onto the like the re with the rest of us with those measurements, but it's
I
okay.
know, man. I know we for whatever reason we have to be different about everything.
It's all
Even
good. It's all good.
even we're still doing daylight saving time, and the rest of the world got hip and stopped doing that too. So but I say that to mean like we're all interconnected. So the fact that you even can grant equity to folks in other regions of the world is like super exciting, because even the company I'm working with, RevScale, right now, we have international devs that are located all over the world that are getting equity into the company and actually feeling a part of the larger picture, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, big believer in that.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think companies that do equity well, exactly as you said, they communicate really well. It's really part of the culture and everybody feels part of it. And then every single day you get cultural benefits. We hear it time and time again how meaningful it is. And quite often, funnily enough, people are so cool when they're safe. There's so much more giving. And if you ask someone, hey, how do you feel about your equity? And they're like, look, I'm really happy I have it and I'm part of it, but I want to help my friend's equity, my teammate. And so there's this incredible camaraderie that comes from it. And so, motivating, engaging, retaining teams
Yep.
sets you apart. So I'm so glad, to hear the way you describe that. That's super, super cool. Um, Man, I'm going to take us a bit into the current day, and let's talk about RevScale. When we caught up previously, I was pretty blown away by what's going on there.
Yep.
It's you've been at it for a while, and it's such a right place, right time, and you got like quite a few really switched on people in this space in the same company, like all rowing in the same direction. So I'm pretty excited for you. Yeah, talk us through a bit about like, what's happening for 2024 for you guys.
Yeah, RevScale is in a massive growth phase right now. The company was founded in 2019. Our founder is a multiple time SaaS founder. I think this is like his fourth or fifth company. So he's had some successful exits in his past as well. And bootstrap the company. He's a big believer in bootstrap too. So it's like you don't do anything unless you can account for it on the back end of the numbers. Which is great. We just raised our first outside institutional round. So we have some pretty heavy hitters that have invested, including the CEO of Ally Bank. So it's been really, really
Man,
exciting. Yeah, we're really, really exciting. We're in another fundraise right now. But it's been awesome because I'm a big believer in revenue and actual can you acquire customers. And so it's cool because our product helps you acquire customers, but we're also a company that is rapidly growing. And so naturally I use all the software internally for my own process and I see the results. So naturally, when I go to talk to other people about it, it's like very seamless because um, I'm using the software myself. And usually the software is how we connected. And that's how, so when I show them, they're like, hey, how did you know to reach out to me? I'm like, oh, here it is. And then they kind of see our conversation. So this year, we're, like I said, in a rapid growth phase. We have a bunch of exciting partnerships coming up and just trying to drive as much revenue as possible. We're hiring and the team is growing and putting ourselves in a position to one, extend our runway, but it looks like we have the opportunity to um, get to, our goals in terms of income and revenue creation, which obviously are the big metrics that everyone wants to see, but more importantly, just growth overall. Adding more employees, adding more employee benefits, um, just
that's cool.
have yes,
Pretty
a lot
much
of excitement.
every sector outside of AI is talking about efficiency and unit economics, and AI businesses are like, nah, man, like we are going for it. So it's exciting to see when everything comes together in a sector.
Yep.
The energy that comes from that and the support and all the best people kind of flood in and the race is on. And so it's great. And the
Yeah,
rate and
I've seen that.
the race is faster than ever, man, because we've got more tools than ever. The AI, like you're using the tools that are like causing the race to be faster. Like so it's kind of like super meta situation.
Yeah.
Um so we got global listeners. Obviously, we're most prevalent in the US and Australia, but we got global listeners. What countries are you kind of working in? Where's your focus at the moment? How's it all going from a like go-to-market perspective when it comes to regions?
Yeah, so we work honestly all over the world. We obviously are United States based. Our office is in Boca Raton. Those of you that don't know a lot about the US, that is about 35 minutes north of Miami, Fort Lauderdale. So South Florida, but our team is remote. We're all over the world. We're bringing actually on people that are helping our go-to-market. In some other regions of the world. We just brought on a gentleman that is like really, really big in the startup community in Israel, actually. And they have a huge startup community out there. And
Huge.
so,
Hmm.
yeah, huge. So it's really exciting to see. That's what makes me so excited about being in the startup ecosystem and being with a company that's growing like this is like, it's really a great fit for anybody in the startup ecosystem or any companies in general. It just doesn't have to be people that are in the States. So we work with people all over the world. And I've, through this experience, it's been really cool for me because I've been seeing, people adopt the product even outside of the, traditional markets in the US. Like when you think startups in the US, you think Silicon Valley, New York. Some of the more recent have been like Austin, Texas, and
Hmm.
then Miami has a pretty big startup ecosystem out there, like Denver, like Colorado as well, Boulder, with like Techstars being out there. But I think it's just growing, man. And that's a super cool thing. Not only intercontinental within the United States, but then international as well with some of our other opportunities and some other big startup hubs.
Sweet. Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear global. And like what's the like of all people listening, or if people have got friends who have businesses that are looking to scale, like what type of businesses should be reaching out to catch up with RevScale to learn more?
Yeah, so the amazing thing is I know when people say that they're for everybody, you aren't for anyone, which I'm a firm believer in, but the I really truly mean this when I talk about RevScale. Depending on our products, we are really set and uniquely positioned to help any company that's in a growth stage, but we can be through the life cycles of a company. So I know a lot of startup founders listen to this podcast. We're a really great fit. We have a product called Raise that actually helps connect you with investors that are in the market based on buyer intent signals. So think of it as walking into a room of 100 investors at the next startup event, and 50 of them have a halo over their head that says, "Hey, founder, I actually really want to talk to you about you and your company," which is amazing. And we've been having a lot of success with founders, giving back to the startup ecosystem there.
I'm
But
excited about that one. Everybody check that out. I'm going to be digging into this myself. I'm pretty sure at Cape we're going to be getting a partnership on this because if we can help speed up the capital raising process, if we can help founders have less meetings but get better funding, shorten up that capital raising cycle so they can protect their equity, get better investors, spend more time innovating and building great companies, I'm all for that. So we're definitely going to be chatting more about that one.
yeah, I'm very, very excited. I think it just makes a lot of sense for Cake and RevScale and the people that we work with. But then also too, we work with a lot of growth stage companies. And then honestly, my days have been spent speaking to a lot of different people because we're such a good fit. We've been gaining rapidly traction with like franchise development opportunities, and that's more like on small business and growth stage because of our sales product allows you to seamlessly build relationships at scale through the AI, basically being your assistant, mimicking your behavior on multiple different platforms and driving meetings to you. And people we are reaching out to, we have a massive data lake as well as buyer signals that they've put out. So we're reaching out to people that have expressed interest in actually wanting to speak with you. So yeah, we're pretty much a fit for any stage, but mainly for the listeners of this podcast, if you're a founder and you're trying to raise money, that RevScale Raise product is great. But then we like to stay with you. I think our average lifetime customer value is higher than some other SaaS platforms because we really do believe in partnership. And so if you go on a raise and then you raise a bunch of money, you work with our team, you work with the Cake team. Now it's like, hey, I need to grow. You can take your raise seat and then contextually change the outreach to people that are actually sales targets for your company, and then obviously you go into that growth mode, and you're still using RevScale to great success. We've had a lot of those use cases lately.
Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. Seems like a fantastic product for startups and growth companies. So keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to learning more. So to wrap things up, we have our creative, healthy lifestyle corner. I don't know if I mentioned this when we chatted, but anyway, here we go. So we're big on health at Cake. We think humans can't really bring their best energy and have a massive impact in the world if their health is suffering. And it's built into kind of everything we do at Cake, and we try and bring that to the community. So how do you tackle this in your life, in sprints, in RevScale? You know, you can sort of answer this any way you like, but you know, how do you tackle health in for yourself and for your businesses, and how do you see it as a platform for success, I guess, in innovation?
Yeah, I think health is like super, super important. I have a shared mission. I think your health is like number one overall priority over anything. You can't build because in order to build successful businesses, it is everything. You got to be psychologically, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Everything has to be
That's it.
accountable. Yeah, and it's cyclical, man. So one of the things I was talking to Jason about is I'm actually in Tulum, Mexico. For those of you that have not been
I
here,
love that. People
yeah,
think it's
man.
all grind, 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 but you got to have the balance, man. You got to have the
Yeah,
good, you got to have the downtime, you got to get your
you
energy
do.
up, and then you can deliver.
Yeah, that's it. And this is one of the most reason why I'm here. It's one of the most magical places I've ever been. I'm here with my family. We are big believers in remote work culture, balance. I'm up and working, sometimes when other people probably aren't, but I also, if it's 11 o'clock during the day when you think you should be working, but if I'm stressed at the time, then I'll just go outside, right? We have the beach here. We have the cenotes.
Love that.
There's a lot of retreats here, like yoga, meditation, alternative medicines. I'm like big into just prioritizing your health. And I think when you're healthy, everything else comes about. So just get outside, take time to drink a lot of water, breathe. And then, yeah,
So good.
whatever makes you happy. Like I think everyone a little bit different, and then we all have different interests and stuff, but I don't think success has to come at the cost of your personal health, because I've just seen it overall too many times. People
Well,
drive themselves into the ground and then they're too sick to even, they might get to where they want to get to, but they're too sick to even enjoy
Well,
it, right?
health is success. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
Like, if you have
that's
your
it.
health, you have success, and everything else is a bonus. So, if you're gonna like work yourself into the ground and sacrifice your health, you're literally mildly insane, in my
Yep.
opinion. Like, you've got your life totally upside down. So, get out of the rat race. Don't kill yourself to make other people money. Like, get your health in check, get your mind, body, spirit in check, get those
Amen.
smiles on your dial, get out in nature, and build something meaningful. So
That's it.
great way to finish, KJ. Can't wait to see you over there in the US, or hopefully in Tulum. Maybe I haven't been yet, so that would be super dope. Not to invite myself to your place or anything, but it's on my bucket list. So maybe one day we'll get to hang out there. But look, thanks so much for sharing. Great story, bootstrap, exit, crazy cool company. Lots of great lessons in there for everyone about how to build tech and protect your equity, create real value. So thanks, man.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us. It's been really, really good and really, really enlightening. Like I said, big fan of your guys's in this podcast. I hope I tried to add a lot of value to everyone out there. I'm available. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, KJ Royal, if you want to learn more about RevScale and our offerings, or just talk and chat about startup culture and health and stuff too. I need to get out there to Australia where Jason's at, because it sounds like it's freaking amazing. I'm a big fan of artist called Fisher. I think he's from the Gold Coast.
Oh man, he's playing a gig down here. I think next month or the month after on the beach at
No
Coolangatta.
way.
It's like
I gotta
right,
check it out.
right by some of the world's best surf breaks, Snapper Rocks in Kira. He's playing on the beach there. It's gonna be dope. I've got tickets actually.
Oh, let's go.
I'm too old for
I love
this, but it's gonna be so fun.
That's sick. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So, like I said, just I'm a big believer, man. Life is too short. Don't drown yourself into the ground. And then, other thing I didn't mention, the health thing. Like, don't compare yourself to others. Your journey is your journey. It happens at a different time for different people, and I think we get in a space of just trying to compare yourself. So, like Jason said, man, get outside and build your company. Be a sponge. Learn as much as possible, and have fun while you're doing it. So, like I said, thanks for having me, man.
That's amazing. Really appreciate it. See you,
Yes, sir.
everyone.
All right. Have a good one.